Greetings, bloggers, vloggers, followers, and potters. Dustin here from Dustin's Dynasty, here at you again with another edition of this week's vlog. Last week I did take the week off. We celebrated my mother's birthday. It was a milestone birthday, but we're back at it again. It's a new week. It's a long, extended end of the week and into the weekend, but we have commitments again. So I am here with you a day earlier, keeping up with my promise to come back to you and share a glimpse of my life as an autistic adult. If you haven't met me, I am a middle-aged man with who has been autistic in some capacity all of his life, being diagnosed at the age of 13 in 1998. I have had a part-time job now for 16 years, and I've been living on my own for over seven. And through life, we've learned to live our way through life, through its struggles, through its hard times, and through some of the moments that teaches me to be a more mature person. And I think part of that is, as we get more grounded mentally and more into our life, we learn to become a mature person. I don't even know if that's even a word, but we're going to go with it because as life goes on, we learn that we don't have to always give in to everything we're led to wanting to being pressured into doing. And today's episode is I don't always have to do it. I don't mean in a way that, you know, you don't always have to do what you're supposed to do. Because for the longest time, I did things that I wasn't supposed to do. And it set me down a very dangerous path that wasn't really the best choice for me. And I learned my lesson many times from that and had two bad consequences as a result that made people concerned and fearful of me. So, in that essence, there's things we have to do. And sometimes the things that we have to do intertwine with other things that, may not seem, what what are hard for us or what we are tempted by in the world. And there is a lot of things out there that we as autistic adults are tempted by, and we learn. And basically for me, because of the way I was raised and not being brought to light as much as I should have been when the world has evolved to what it is today, a lot of things that I've had to learn about, I've had to learn as I went, as I moved on with life. And sometimes we don't always know that of the things that we need to know, of the street smarts, or if the skills of our maturity, the skills of adulthood. Even as I go into independence, our family members can only teach us so much because they themselves only know so much, or that things that we just didn't talk about because we never thought we had to talk about them, but they enter our lives. And part of it is too understanding that we as individuals, no matter where we are on the spectrum, have the right oftentimes to say no, as long as we understand and we accept the consequences of the things that we are sometimes pressured into doing, not only in a sense, not in a sense of, what we have to do to keep our mental stability up and going and stuff, but what we see out there in the world and what we see online. And, it really brings things into perspective because this week, in conversation, some people just avoid it because of how, the online world because of how toxic and how nasty it can be, particularly to those with special needs, those with autism and so forth, and others. It can be a blessing in a way, but you have to know your limits. You have to know when to say no. You have to know how to respect yourself and how to respect others, and knowing when too much is too much and what you feel comfortable for, with, and who, and by, and how does that work for you, and how do you respect yourself? How do you keep your boundaries? How do you safeguard yourself in that process? And it's definitely something that I have had to work on, and something over time that you're so wanting to have a friendship, you're wanting to have that connection, but it takes, for me personally, it takes, the vetting. We haven't heard, uh, that word for years until it came out in some, story by a leader years ago. And, that word is still a word that I use to know whether to, accept someone, and same wise to whether to push the envelope, so to speak. And, understanding that I, as a human being, have the rights that I have, and you can't take that away from me, because that is my right as a human being, and I have the right to respect myself, my body, and who I am. I don't have to give in to what the world pressures us to do. And I think that's why, there's so much safety into the world that has to be respected, that has to be honored, because there is so much vulnerability out there, and especially for individuals with special needs and autism. And sometimes it has to be that social media is a red flag for, or a danger for them, but sometimes it can be what helps us too. And it can be hard for sometimes for others to see that. But in essence, it's not only in the social media world or the cyber world that we visit, but it's also the outside world too. And knowing that we don't have to do things that we don't want to do because we're coerced or we're pressured into it. As long as we understand and accept the consequences of not giving in to doing things that we don't feel comfortable doing. We don't have to do things that we don't feel comfortable with. Now, granted, there are those instances where anxiety will kick in. And in fact, anxiety is a constant in my life. I'm not going to lie about that. And it can keep me back from doing some of the things that I need to do, but I know I need to do them. And as hard as it is, sometimes we have to fight anxiety and do those things. And it can make, when we're anxious, it can make us want to not do them and want to avoid things because they make us feel uncomfortable. But if something is not what we feel comfortable, not just because of anxiety, but because, hey, that's something maybe we're not interested in. Maybe that's something, that it doesn't make us feel, maybe we really know that it's not going to make us feel interested, or we know it's not going to make fun. There's like something that I don't like. It's bingo. I don't like bingo. And, it's not something that I like to do. Day services sometimes offers it as part of the holiday celebrations. And frankly, I'm not really a fan of it. So I don't participate. I have that right. I sit maybe in the other room. I'll contribute to our day services in another way, answer the phone, what have you. It's just not my wheelhouse. Now, because of different things. Now, if I participate with, family, that's a whole different thing. But as far as, there's things, you don't have to do everything. And I think it's something that comes with a delicate balance because I see it, when people ask us to help with things. Yeah, sometimes we get burnt out by things. Sometimes we'll just say, no, we're not doing it. But there's times too that we have to do what we have to do to carry our weight and, hold our own ground and push our way through things. And even if they're not easy for us, or we want to stand our ground because we're lazy or we're tired. And it's not even in the sense that we're lazy, it's just we have to sometimes do things to pitch in and help, others too, even as hard as it can be, and even, as challenging as it is, even if we don't want to, there can be a reason to say no, but there also is a limit to it. And if there's enough support or a reason to say no, then yes. But if there's not a need, if there's a need and you have that, and for me personally, I have that heart, so I'm going to do what I can, and if I feel up to it, I am. But if I don't, I need to be honest and I need to say no. It's like anything with mental health or your physical health, for example. If you feel you can't do it, and it's a very tedious line, especially when it involves anxiety and such. But if you physically know it is driving you bad and it makes you feel sick at your stomach and it's going to cause anxiety and pushing, and it's going to be more than what you know that you can handle, and you have valid facts that you cannot handle it, then you can say no. And you can understand and accept the consequences for what they are. And it's not always easy. And, there's things that I will this year learn to do and accept for what they are. But that all takes time. That all takes understanding, acceptance, and pushing for what it is. And, we're all going to learn and grow together. We're all going to, make life for what it is. But you have to have that in you to know that you don't have to be pressured into doing everything that you do. You don't have to be led into things. You don't have to accept peer pressure for what it is. Autistic people are often easily led into believing things that they have to do because, you're going to make somebody upset. You're going to make somebody angry. And over time, I had to learn that, saying no, and if somebody gets angry, that's just tough tacos. That's just the way it is. You don't have to have everybody be your friend, and you don't have to have everybody accept you as a human being. There are those who you have to navigate the world with, be with, know with, do with, but there's a part of life that you have to understand, that you don't have to do the things that make you feel uncomfortable or push you to a limit that sets your mental health, your physical health, or any other feeling that you are feeling back because you're not feeling comfortable doing something. Your comfort and your safety level are of the utmost importance. Now, granted, anxiety does its thing, and sometimes we have to push ourselves. But if something doesn't seem right, and or it makes us feel a very weary way about ourselves, then we have the right and the power to say no, as long as we accept, understand, know, realize, and the consequences for what they are. So that is my vlog for the week. I hope you took some knowledge from that. I know I've been wanting to share that for some time, and it's just what it is. So, if you haven't already, be sure to like this video, tap that notification bell, subscribe to the channel, and if you haven't, leave a comment if you feel you want to. I do read those. Likewise, you can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, X, Pinterest, TikTok, Dustin's Dynasty. On the web, that address is www.dustinsdynastyusa.com. And lastly, if you haven't heard anything, you can go to my link tree under Dustin's Dynasty. You'll find all my socials, my email sign up, my website, all that related stuff, and everything that this is podcasted on. So, with that being said, I want you to have a good week, have a good weekend, take care of yourself, stay safe out there. Remember, you matter, you are loved, you are enough, and we'll talk at you soon. Bye for now, everyone. Have a good weekend.